All right, you guys. So we are going to do our very first episode of our podcast. We're going to name our podcast Stand Up, right? And I've got an awesome logo that's already on my phone to put with the podcast because I'm all about telling people that they need to stand up for their life, for what they're doing, for everything that's going on in their life and how they treat their life, and they need to respect themselves. So the very first podcast episode that we're going to do is with one of my friends. She came, her background is pretty awesome, and I get a lot of women every day that reach out to me about their situation, about their relationships or their marriages and all of these things, and some of them just aren't so good. Some of them are about women who are in relationships that are taking more from them than it's given to them. And I invited my friend on here to do this first episode with me because she has been through that, and I want her to tell her story with you guys and how she overcome it and how she now has a great life with her beautiful kids. She has 3 and she's married now, and she is doing awesome, and I want her to share her story to give you guys some hope of everything that you can accomplish even when you think like that you can't. Okay, so we're gonna welcome Haley.
Hey.
We're super excited to have you on here, so why don't you just tell them a little bit about you and your background right now.
Okay, my name is Haley Kramer. I am married. I've been married almost 2 years in December. I have 3 kids. I have twin girls. They are 4. And then I have a newly 8-month-old. His name is Kyler. And he was a very early preemie. And now he is right on track and doing great. That's really about all I can say as far as
right
introducing
now.
myself.
So why don't you go into where you came from? So your girls are from your previous relationship.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that and how that started and where you were.
When I was 18, this is actually my second marriage. When I was 18, I was married briefly to what is now one of my friends. We get along fine. And then I kind of hit a little wild streak after that, and if you've been married really young and it ended quickly, sometimes it takes you a minute to get back into the swing of things. You go through some rough patches, and in that rough patch, I met my girl's father. I had known him for years, but we just kind of reconnected and started talking. At the time, I was actually living in West Virginia. And then shortly, I moved in with him back in North Carolina in our hometown, Mount Airy. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Take your time.
We kind of just were having fun. We were partying. We were doing a lot of things we shouldn't have. And I was ready to settle down. I had always wanted a big family. I had wanted kids for as long as, if any of y'all know me, y'all know I've wanted kids since I was a kid. So we talked about that and everything was fine. And then after a short amount of time of trying, I found out I was pregnant. And then a week later, I found out I was pregnant with triplets. After we found out we were pregnant with triplets, we quickly were told that there was only 2 living babies, that the third one had passed and I was about to have a miscarriage. They didn't know if I would even make it past the first trimester with any of my kids for any of my pregnancies. So I was really scared and I was really vulnerable and I was so sick. I was beyond sick. So about that time is when my abuse started. 2 days after we had found out for sure that the third baby had passed, he choked me in our dining room for the first time. He pinned my arm behind my back and pushed me up against a mattress. And immediately I was like, no, this is not the life I want. So I left, and I thought everything would be fine after that. That if I left for a few days, it would stop. It would scare him enough to where he didn't want to lose his family. but I was very wrong. It continued over the course of my entire pregnancy and did not stop until my girls were 5 months old. I was strangled in the middle of the night. I was found by my parents black and blue with my eyes swollen shut. It was the most traumatic experience of my life. He beat me with my 7-week-old child tucked up under me so that he couldn't hit her in a rage at 4 o'clock in the morning. And you don't know fear, not only until it's your life that could be taken, but until you have a helpless baby sitting in your lap and their life could be taken too. And the final time, they were 5 months old, and I was at home with my sister. We were all there, and he was at work and had come home, and we got into an argument over the Wi-Fi password that ended with me laying on the floor with his hands around my throat and my sister screaming from the hallway for him to stop, to get off of me. And finally, I had the courage that enough was enough, that I was not going to be beaten on anymore, and I called the police. I did not press charges, but I called the police. And at that time, I think it really put the fear of God in him, because anyone that is coward enough to beat on you is scared of the consequences.
Yes. I agree with that 100%.
And a month later, he came in to our house and tried to take our kids from me, which did not happen. They never went with him until sometime later. I took out a restraining order, and I've been living my life since. And I could not have done that without my family. My sister, at 14 years old, stepped up and started helping me raise my kids until I met my husband again. I know my husband since high school, but we were not fans of each other. He was horrible. And honey, if you're listening, I love you, but we were not besties.
We were not besties, she said. Yes.
So I really just started my life over from scratch. I moved to Wilson, North Carolina, and started over completely. I just left, and I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. I didn't tell my parents I was leaving. I didn't tell my sister I was leaving until I got there. And I set up my family until our newest was on his way, and then I got really sick. And over the course of the last 3 years, I've restarted. I've done everything. I've traveled. I've been and done things that I did not think I would do. I've seen miracles happen in my little boy. And now I'm stronger than ever.
Well,
that's about it.
I love that. So, a lot of the things that people say to me is they don't feel like they have the strength to get out of the situation. Mm-hmm. They're worried about their finances. They're worried about how they're going to make it if they choose to leave. What do you have to say to somebody who that is their worry? That they don't know how they're going to make it if they stay with this person.
I was exactly the same way. Financially, I had no way to work. One of my daughters was very sick when she was born, and she has what's called laryngomalacia, and that caused her to stop breathing very often. I mean, she stopped breathing for 3 minutes at 7 weeks old. So working and putting my child in daycare was not an option. Financially, I can't support 2 kids on my own without a job in my head. My family really stepped up, and then they gave me a home. I just had to reach out. I had to ask for help. And sometimes that's the only thing you can do. And especially if you have kids, you have to make a way. If you're a mama, you know you have to make a way. There's no way around it. Your kids need you. Your family needs you. And ever since then, I mean, I'm still a stay-at-home mom now. I've worked since then. I did not get to work very long, but through the help of my husband and my family, we've made it, and we're doing great.
Yeah, so I just want that to go with, too, that we have very different backgrounds, but I was in a different type of relationship. I was in one that was physical and emotional, but ours was more emotional. He took a toll on me emotionally. He made me feel like I was worthless. He called me fat. He would say mean things to me. He would tell me 1 minute he loved me, 1 minute I was trash. I mean, that's pretty much how it just went. And I was scared too, just like Haley. I was scared to leave because, one, you want to make something work out because that's your kid's dad, and you want your kids to have the best life possible, right? And in your mind, the best life possible is two parents together, living together, being together, being a family, right? I know you can't see me, but quotations, family, right? But somebody beating on you is not your family, okay? And I promise you that if they have the courage to beat on you or to put you down emotionally or to hurt your feelings or to take something from you, they will also take it from your kids. Mm-hmm. I just want to, make that 100% clear. Now, some of you come to me and y'all have great marriages. Y'all just want out. Y'all, I want to tell you that you need to buckle down and figure out why you're not happy in your marriage, okay? And you need to make it work, because I believe in the King James Version of that Bible, and I believe that you need to fix your marriage. No matter what it is, you need to fix it. Only in the instance, though, God does not want you to be beaten on. He don't want you to be defeated. He don't want nobody hurting your kids. He wants you to survive, and He wants you to trust in Him so much that you'll leave everything behind to start a new life. You'll leave everything that you know behind to live a better life, to be more closer to Him, to give Him all the glory so that you can be a testimony from Him, right? And, it's the worst part about leaving somebody is the leaving part.
Yes.
And I think that is the hardest part because you don't know how you're going to make it. But the thing is if you don't figure out how you're going to make it, you're probably not going to make it, period, right?
Exactly.
You're probably going to end up with God a lot sooner than you wish to, right? And you're going to leave your kids behind, and you're going to leave people behind that really need you, right? So the hardest part is leaving the situation that you are in, and I just want to tell you that you can, because she did it and she had nobody. She reached out to her family. That was her big thing. I did it. I had nobody. I reached out to my mom and stuff. You guys, I got a job within the same week. Things just worked out for me, right? I didn't, when he left, right, he paid all the bills, y'all. Like, he did not like me working. I wasn't allowed to work. I wasn't allowed to do things. So I didn't. And, when he left, I wondered how I was going to pay the bills, but I got up and I got a job, okay? You work with the circumstances that you got. For Haley, she couldn't get a job, right? She had to take care of her kids. Her kid needed her all throughout the day, right? So she reached out to her family. My kids could go to daycare, so I didn't want to, but I put them in, right? I put them in a Head Start, and I went to work, right? You can do whatever you set your mind to doing, but you got to find the ways to do it. And if you're too lazy to get up and find the way to make it work, then you don't want to leave bad enough.
Exactly.
You ain't been beaten bad enough, okay? You ain't been hurt bad enough. None of that has happened to you bad enough yet that you're ready for a change, okay? But when it finally does, and you are finally ready, and you are ready to overcome what you have been put up against, you have got to stand up and rise up and start going forward and realize that there is always a way. But you got to be brave enough to find the way. Okay, I just want to talk about too. We talked about her story and how, she was beaten, right? And she finally got out of it for herself and her kids, and she moved far away, and now she's back here in Mount Airy, and she's with a great man and a great husband, and they have the kids, and everybody is so much happier, right? And she's happy, and How do you think you did that? How do you think you went from what I was talking about this morning on Facebook was the confidence, right? Having the confidence that you can't find that in other people. You got to find it in yourself. How do you think you went from feeling defeated and all of those things that came with leaving? For me, I felt worthless, defeated. Nobody wanted me. I wasn't good enough, right? That's how I was when I left. So how did you specifically get to a level of where you love yourself and you love your life and you love your kids, right? And everything's just finally where it's supposed to be. How'd you get there?
I looked at my kids and I stared at my kids. Have the brightest blue eyes. I'm just going to tell y'all that. They have the brightest blue eyes. And I just looked into their eyes and they needed me. It wasn't that I didn't have the option to be down, but I wasn't going to let them see me fail because I wanted better for them. I wanted to prove to them that it does not have to be this way. You don't have to settle for less than what you deserve just because somebody else told you had to.
Yes.
And that's what I did. And now they walk into a room and they just my mom said it the other day on Facebook, they radiate love. They tell everybody how beautiful they are. They tell everybody how happy they are. They know when you've had a bad day. They know when you've had a good day. They can just feel it. And I'm so thankful that I was able to instill that in them in a horrible time. Or what started as a horrible time is now a beautiful time for them.
Yeah. I love that too. I think that is 100% true and accurate to every bit of it, because mine is a lot of the same. I didn't have a choice. Mm-hmm. I had to do it. There was no choice involved. And it's like I said earlier, if you still feel like you have a choice, then you ain't in the corner as much as you think you are. Right? Like you are not. I was forced to take on 2 kids by myself. It was literally forced upon me. Mm-hmm. And as it was you, yes. Right? It was forced. So if you cannot find a way and you are still making the excuses, then you just it ain't bad enough yet, right? And you have to really sit down and ask yourself if you are willing to stay where you are or if you need to move forward, okay? Right. Because that is going to be the biggest thing for you. Everything that you possibly want to do and need to do and all of these things and all these blessings you need to pick up and all that potential you need to let out, right? You can't do that when you have people around you that aren't making you valuable, right? They're making you feel unvaluable, unworthy, not good enough, and all those things. And none of those things are true. So you have to really make the decision that you want to be that person, that you want to be the person who overcomes this, who is a testimony, who can uplift other people, who can share their story, right? You have to decide that it's that time. And until you're ready to decide it's that time, nothing in your life is going to change. But I want to let y'all know today, and by her sharing her story, that no matter how bad it is, no matter all the different backgrounds we've come from, no matter the choices we've made or where we've been or who we are, right? We all have the choice to grow in our lives and to make the decision to make your life better, right? You're not stuck where you are. You're never stuck where you are. The reason you are where you are is because you're choosing to be there, okay? And not every situation is easy. What we went through has not been easy, but it's where everything started for us in a sense, right? It's where our whole life turned upside down and completely turned around, and now we're completely different people who have grew, who know how strong we are now, right? We have the confidence to do the things because we already done the things, right? We know that if we can overcome that, we can overcome anything. And that may be exactly where you are today. You need to know that you can do this. You need to know that you're going to overcome this. You need to know that there's ways for you to get out of the situation that you're in, to go into a better life, to shoot yourself into a better situation, to do all of those things that you want to do. You can do that, but you have to make the choice. You got to make the decision today, you guys. So is there anything else you want to add today for anybody?
I personally feel like that God put me in that situation because he knew I was strong enough to make it out of it. Yeah. And if I'm strong enough to make it out of it, I can speak on it and I can make a difference and I can change or help somebody else who doesn't feel like they are strong enough to do it.
Yes.
And that is the most important thing to me now. Being out of it and living out of it is a completely different scenario than being in it and living through it. You can get through it, but what you're going to do about it is the main thing.
Yes.
And sometimes leaving is not always safe. You have to figure out, and if you're living through that, then you know you're probably scared. If I leave, what's he going to do? If I leave, what's she going to do? Because it's not just women that are beaten and in domestic violence. It's men too.
Yeah.
And you're probably thinking, well, what's going to happen? It doesn't matter. You need to find the safest time to leave. If they're at work, they're not there to hurt you.
That's when I did it.
Yeah. And that's when you need to take those steps to better your life, because it's not going to get better until you do something about it. Nobody's going to fly in with a big old cape and say, here I am. I've come to save you. You have to do it.
Yes. And I want to say, too, similarity, I don't think we've talked about it on this. We talked about it before we went live. But you left the first time and thought that was going to be enough to make a difference. I did the same. I left the first time while he was at work and stayed gone about a week and thought that was going to make a difference.
Yes.
And it changes the situation for a while.
Yeah.
But it always goes back
always.
to the same thing, right? So, don't put yourself in the situation by going back.
Yes.
When you get lonely and when things are hard and you just want somebody there, right? And you're by yourself and you're with your kids, and I'm just going to be straight up with y'all, that part sucks. Like, I sat in my house and I'd put my kids to bed, right? And I was watching TV. Mind y'all, I'm a person that loves my alone time. Love my alone time. Love just sitting down, not doing a darn thing. Nobody saying nothing. Like, I don't got to hear anything. It's quiet. I love that. But when you're in a situation of you don't have anybody but your kids, right? And you are sitting in this empty house just with your kids and you've put them to bed and it's quiet, you're lonely, right? And you don't have that connection you want with an adult person, right? It is going to be hard. Yes. But if you will just don't go astray when that happens, y'all realize that it's going to be hard, right? Realize that you're going to want to go back, but be strong enough to not go back, right?
Exactly.
The second man that I left after I got a separation was a man who was addicted to drugs, right? And I left him finally the day I caught him doing drugs in my bathroom, right? And as hard as it was to sit in that living room by myself, watch my kids open Christmas by myself, try to help everybody by myself, right? I was alone and felt like I was always going to be alone, and my kids were missing him and I was missing him, and it seemed like, hey, just go back. You've taught him a lesson. No. I did not go back because I'd already went back once before and it didn't make a difference. Okay? So do not put yourself back in a situation that you just came from. I'm not saying people cannot change, because I wholeheartedly believe that they can. But what I'm telling you is they can't change because you want them to. They got to change because they want to. They'll never change because you want them to. And that's usually where the reality comes in is, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be enough for them to change. Okay? They ought to want to do that for themselves. So don't go back, right? I don't know why, but that seems like it's like a humongous thing considering we both did it. And I know a lot of other women who've done it too. They leave. Yeah. You think that's going to scare them bad enough. You go back. It didn't. As much as you think it did, okay, it did not scare them bad enough. Do not go back when it gets hard or when you get lonely, okay? You will overcome this. You will be better for this. You will get through this. You're going to come out so much stronger, so much confidenter. You're going to have self-worth. You're going to have value. You're going to feel like amazing when you make it to the other side, right? And then you're going to be just like me and Haley over here. And we both have men that are great to us now because of the value that we know we hold, right? We will refuse to go back into those types of situations, okay? So do not go back when you want to, okay? Yeah. You gotta beat the test. You've got to make it through it.
And a lot of times the abuse will get worse if you go back, because then they get in the mindset of, oh, she's left. She'll come back again.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what I do. She'll come back.
Yes, I agree with that 100% too, because Arthur thought I left so many times and came back so many times that he knew I was always going to come back, right? He knew I was always going to come back. So that is so true. I believe that 100% too. So do not go back, even though it is so hard, right? Reach out to somebody that can talk to you, that can help you. And I want to tell you guys too that say you don't have family, right? You're on here, well, y'all, I don't got family, right? I don't got family. Who am I going to reach out to? Y'all, there's organizations that are here to help you, right? I will open my door to my home. I will open my door up to anybody, okay? In any situation, in any place, right? There are places out there set up, designed for you and your safety.
Yes.
I'm not saying they're that great to live in. I'm not saying it's going to be easy to live in. Because I'm pretty sure there are rules and regulations that go along with those. But y'all, and it's going to suck. Y'all, I'm honest. I'm not going to lie about it. It's going to suck being there, right? And that's when you're going to be tempted to go back. But y'all, if you'll make it through that time, you need to reach out to your resources that you've got, and you need to make it through that time.
Yes.
Make it through that hard time, because if you can make it through that time, man, in a year from now, you could be living in, like, a mansion, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't even know what can be happening in your life. You could own a home. You could be anywhere, right? Whatever your greatest dreams and your desires are, right? God wants you to have every one of those. Every one of those desires that is on your heart, He wants you to have every one of those. But He can't give them to you if you're not willing to trust Him through your really, really hard times, okay? And right there would be a really, really hard time that you just got to make it through.
Exactly. And if you feel like you're not strong enough to live through that, then how did you get through the abuse? Because I'm sure the abuse was 10 out of 10 more worse than what you are going to endure after you leave. It may be hard for a couple of months, but how long did you stay in that abusive relationship and let it keep happening to you before you said enough is enough, and you left for a reason?
Right. And you guys, we're not on here telling you to leave your marriages or to leave your relationships and all these things, because I, would never do that. We would never do that. Because we're in relationships now where I can 100% guarantee that we're just like every normal married couple, that, you know, we love and hate each other some days, right? We hate each other, but we love them just the same, right? And that is how it is, right? You can't love everybody all the time. Like, y'all be crazy, y'all think that. So we're not saying that, because there's plenty of times when you sit there and you start to question, gosh, should I even really be married, right? Yeah. Like, I don't like this, all right? There's plenty of times, because we're all different people, but we're not going to do that, right? Because marriage is a commitment, okay, that you got to get through, that you got to stay with, right? So if you're in a relationship, right, and you're just defeated and think you're not in love anymore and all those nonsense things, I'm sorry, but that's what they are. They are like that because you have neglected your marriage, okay? And you got to learn how to water it, right? Your marriage, I got hiccups. Your marriage is just like a garden outside. If you do not water your garden, plants will not grow, okay? You have to water your marriage every single day, right? It's just the little things, right, that add up. Water it every day to have a good marriage, right? To restore what you think you've lost. We are talking to the women who are in a situation that they could die from.
Exactly.
Okay? Like, if they don't get away from this, it could kill them. Okay? And that is who we are talking to today. We are talking to the women who are being beaten and emotionally. And we're not saying, like, you don't have to be beaten to be in an emotional or an abusive relationship, okay? Emotionally, you can also be abused.
There's so many different types of abuse. There's financial, sexual, physical, emotional, verbal.
Yes.
And the list goes on.
Yes.
There's so much.
Yes. So we're not just talking to those who are like, well, my husband don't beat me, or my boyfriend don't beat me. If he puts you down, okay, controls you, examples, okay, of what I went through. I wasn't allowed to leave the house for more than 2 hours without being called and cussed out, okay, because I needed to come home and take care of kids, okay. Stuff was threw at me. My kids were jerked up out of my arms just because he would use my kids over control over me, right? He would get mad about our financial situation. He did put bruises on me, but most of ours was emotional, right? He would tell me how worthless I was, right? He would try to control every situation. I wasn't allowed to work. I mean, he kept me from, I wasn't allowed to have friends. At one point, I wasn't even allowed to go to my meemaws or my mothers, right? He tried to keep me away from family. He tried to isolate me, okay? So they're not just physical abuse, okay? Yes. It's also emotional abuse, okay? Somebody trying to take control over every situation of your life, okay? That is another type of abuse that you can be going through. And if you think that it's fixable and it's emotional, I would say counseling, okay? Done the counseling thing, worked great for me for a while, but he always went back, okay? Yes. So, counseling, if you're married, is where you should start, okay? But if it don't get better, okay, just because you're not being beaten doesn't mean you're not abused.
Exactly.
Okay? You really got to be able to distinguish that.
And even if this isn't for you, say you're not the one who is in an abusive relationship, the likelihood of someone you know being in an abusive relationship is 1 in 4. 1 in 4 women in the United States are victim of some type of abuse. And that's your mamas, your sisters, your nieces, your friends. I have 2 best friends right now that I can think of off the top of my head that I have seen bruised and bloodied and hurt, and how horrible of a mom they were, even if they were doing everything right but taking themselves out of the situation. They were told they were horrible. It's someone you know is being abused right now, and you never know what happens behind closed doors.
Yes. Yep. So, just even if you are not the one who is going through this and you're just the person that needs to know you're going to make it through the next chapter of your life, you need to start paying attention. Yes. You need to start paying attention to the women around you who are not telling you everything, right? And they're doing all these things through closed doors. You never know what happens when somebody goes in their house and they shut that door, right? Exactly. And if it's somebody that you really care about, you should be scared for their life, yes. Okay? You should literally be scared for their life, because there was times when he would sleep in the bed with guns, okay? Like, sleep in the bed with guns. While I was over here, there was times he wouldn't let me leave my house, right? You have no idea what's happening when everybody's inside of that house, okay? So, even if you're just the woman who needs to know that you're going to make it through the next chapter of this life, you are. But specifically for the one who is hurting right now and in a relationship that they are scared to death to get out of, you can do this. That is the whole point of this video or podcast, right? Is to let you know you can do this. We made it out, and we are no better than you or anybody else, right? We just had the courage to stand up, right? So you have got to stand up. Okay. Is there any final thoughts that you have or want to say to everybody?
I've been sitting over here nodding my head to Kelsey the entire time. I know y'all can't see me, but I'm agreeing with everything she says. Thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me share my story. I really appreciate it, and I hope we've helped someone today.
Me too, yes. You're more than welcome, and I'm so glad that you agreed to come on. I'm pretty excited that I didn't even mean to record my first podcast today, but here we are. So I'm so excited about that, and I'm going to try to get it up tonight, by the end of the night. Thank you for coming on here, and hopefully we can do it again when we get some more followers.
Sounds good.